If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us bring you more content like this. You can find this episode and all of our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. See the show notes for a discount code on a digital subscription. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading news.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Prep Central, the Albuquerque Journal's high school podcast broadcast. I am James Yodice. I am the high school sports editor at the Journal, have been for quite a while. Such a fun time of year. November is an extremely fun but unbelievably grueling month of high school activity. You know, we're into all the football playoffs now. Soccer and cross country just finished their state events last week. Volleyball is going to do their state event this week. Basketball season begins officially on Monday, November 17th. First game's coming up probably late next weekend, the weekend before Thanksgiving. So there is a lot going on for me right now in the month of November. It's a tough month for me, but a lot of fun. There's a lot going on. And we're going to talk a little soccer and cross country at the end of the show. We're going to start off with some football. I've got two guests lined up this week. Centennial head football coach Aaron Ocampo. I've known Aaron a long time, going back to his days at Manzano. And then Eunice High School quarterback Elijah Melancon, who you may or may not have heard recently, went over 10,000 career yards with the Cardinals, one of only 4 quarterbacks in the state's history that have ever gotten to that number. So I had visits with both of them earlier today. As I sit here with you, it is Wednesday, November 12th. The podcast drops on Thursday, and you may catch us on just about any platform you wish, Spotify or YouTube. We also have something up on our Albuquerque Journal website. You can find it there. So we're going to talk a lot of football right here at the start. So let's jump right into it. The first round of the 11-man playoffs was last weekend. So all of the top seeds in the 5 11-man classes all had the weekend off. So they all jump back into the bracket now this week in the quarterfinal round. We're going to start in 6A, of course. So the notable result from the first round was that Carlsbad, an 11 seed, came up here to the metro area, beat up on Rio Rancho, the number 6 seed, 35-13. So Carlsbad advances as a double-digit seed, which is rare, to be honest, in high school football. It happens quite a bit in basketball where you get double-digit seeds advancing. It doesn't happen nearly as much in football. It really doesn't. So Carlsbad was one of 3 double-digit seeds in the 11-man brackets that won in the first round. Hot Springs, which is the number 11 seed in Class 3A, they beat Theroux, so they come up here to play Hope Christian in the next round. That is Friday night at Wilson Stadium. Ruidoso is the number 10 seed in 3A. They went up to Las Vegas and beat West Las Vegas. So now Ruidoso moves into the quarterfinals against a closer rival in Dexter, the number 2 seed. But we'll stick with 6A for the moment. The other games last week, not much of a surprise. The only moderate surprise was that Cibola, which was the 10 seed, nearly upset Volcano Vista, the number 7. Volcano got away with a 14-10 win, and frankly, that was only because Volcano blocked a punt in the fourth quarter, got the ball inside the 10-yard line, scored a couple of plays later. They were down 10-7 at the time, and they pull out a win over Cibola, my alma mater, who I must say had really a terrific season, first year under Coach David Howes. And Cibola had lost to Volcano by 28 points the previous week. So that game was very defensive-minded. Volcano only scored, truthfully, 1 good offensive touchdown. They scored on the first drive of the game to go ahead 7-0. The drive they had to score points in the fourth quarter, that only went 8 yards, so I wouldn't put that on the offense necessarily. So Volcano's offense really struggled against that excellent and underrated Cibola defense. Volcano's defense played equally well and made stops when they had to. So Volcano Vista, as a 7, gets through. They're going to play Cleveland, a district rival, on Friday night in Rio Rancho. Cleveland beat Volcano pretty handily during district play. Of course, Cleveland handled most everybody handily during district play. That game is Friday night. 3 of the 6A games in the quarterfinals are on Friday night. We've got Carlsbad, the 11. They're going to play their rival, Hobbs. That game is on Friday night at Watson Memorial Stadium. Hobbs is the 3 seed. And then I will be down in Las Cruces this weekend for a couple of games. I'll be at the Field of Dreams on Friday night. Los Lunas, the 8 seed, which is coming off a 28-24 win over Piedra Vista in the first round, a very close result. Los Lunas is going to play number 1 and undefeated Las Cruces. That is 7 o'clock Friday night at the Field of Dreams. And then the only 6A game on Saturday, I'll be there for that one as well, is number 4 Centennial and number 5 La Cueva. La Cueva coming off a big win over El Dorado, 41-7 in the first round. So La Cueva has won 9 in a row. They're 9-2. They've got momentum and they're playing well. Centennial 7-3. And as I mentioned, we're gonna have Centennial coach Aaron Ocampo on during the podcast today, and we're going to talk at length about a few different things, including the La Cueva matchup on Saturday. So I'll be hitting the road. Nothing I love more really during November than getting out on the road for some high school football playoffs. And of course, we'll recap all of that next week. The 5A playoffs get back into play here this week as well with their quarterfinals. Number 1 Artesia is home to Highland. The number 8 seed Highland had an impressive win over number 9 Mayfield in the first round up here in Albuquerque at Milne Stadium. Now they get to go down to Bulldog Bowl. This is a game Highland almost certainly cannot win, but I think the program is looking forward to it, and I think it's a nice bonus to get to go down to play in Bulldog Bowl. If you're a high school football player, I mean, that's really the mecca. So Highland facing extremely long odds on Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock against Artesia. Belen has also advanced to the quarterfinals. They're going to be playing at number 2 Roswell. That game is Friday night at Wool Bowl in Roswell. Belen really put it to Valley last week in the first round. I think it was 50-23, I think. Belen has been playing. I've noticed this. I have mentioned this a couple of times on my podcast this season. Belen has played some good football, and they've now won 7 games. They don't match up well with Roswell. Few teams do, to be honest with you. So they, like Highland, have a very tall task ahead in the quarterfinals. Lovington and Goddard are playing in the 4-5 game. So Lovington had a bye. Goddard played last week. So they beat Deming, I think, by 3 touchdowns. So now you have Deming and Lovington. Goddard and Lovington playing in the quarterfinals down in Lovington. With Lovington as the 4 seed. And then we have the quarterfinal game that by far is the most interesting game to me of the 4, which is number 6 Gadsden against number 3 Los Alamos. Now, Los Alamos is 10-0. They lost at Gadsden. They lost at Gadsden in the quarterfinals last season. So the Hilltoppers get to host this time. That game is noon on Saturday. Gadsden, as a matter of fact, I talked to their coach, Dino Fascio, yesterday, and they're getting a head start. They're going to come up this way on Friday ahead of their game at noon on Saturday. So, boy, Los Alamos is one of those cases I'm not sure about. They would do themselves a world of good if they could beat a team like Gadsden, and of course Los Alamos should be favored as the higher seed. But now that Los Alamos is into the quarters, coming off a bye week, we need to see how they're going to fare against these teams from the Southern District. If they get past Gadsden on Saturday, then they will certainly be playing Roswell the next week in the semifinals. So I am super interested in seeing how this game unfolds. I think it'll be relatively close. I don't see Los Alamos blowing anybody out. I don't see Gadsden blowing anybody out. I think this game will be close and competitive. Ultimately it comes down to, can Gadsden get in the way of Jordan Herrera, which is the fantastic junior running back from Los Alamos, who's just been a beast all year. If Gadsden cannot slow him down, I don't see how Gadsden's going to win this game. Los Alamos is pretty big up front. They want to wear you down, and that applies to just about anybody they play. So really curious about that. The 4A playoffs, I believe we have Bloomfield, the number 1 seed, playing Bernalillo, the number 8. That is a Saturday afternoon game up in the Four Corners. Bloomfield came down here to play Bernalillo in the regular season and just shredded them, I think, by 44 points. Bloomfield playing some great football, and they still remain the favorite until somebody knocks them off. Speaking of which, the team that seems to be best equipped to do that is the same one we've been talking about all year, and that's St. Pius, the number 2 seed. St. Pius is home Friday night here at Newsenda Community Stadium. They're going to be playing Grants. These two played early in the season. Pius won 34-20. So Grants, I think, feels like they have a shot to be competitive in this game, but the difference is Grants is not going to have the same quarterback they did the first time they played St. Pius. Tristan Fernandez, who was really good for Grants, got hurt a few weeks ago. He's not going to be playing on Friday night. That changes things up dramatically for Grants. I mean, look, to beat Pius, you're going to have to score probably 30 points at least. Can Grants do that without their number one quarterback? That's going to be a tall task. So we'll see. Pius has just been playing fantastic football now over the last several weeks. So they have a bunch of momentum as we get started, as they get started with their playoff run. We've got Moriarty, who is the number 6 seed. Moriarty is going to be traveling on Friday night to play Chaparral, the number 3 seed. A really fascinating game. The Lobos were a 12 seed last year and went to Portales and won in the first round. And Portales had just beaten them pretty good the week prior. So Chaparral is coming off a very solid, if not excellent, regular season. They had one really ugly game, which was a result up here where they didn't even get past halftime against St. Pius when St. Pius beat them 50-0, which is still one of the craziest lopsided scores all year, considering they were ranked number 2 and number 3 in the state when they played. So Chaparral going to have its hands full with Moriarty. Moriarty has been running the ball extremely well over the last handful of games. And look, if you want to win in the playoffs, you better be able to travel with a run game. I mean, I shouldn't say you better be able to, but it certainly will benefit you if you have a good run game. And Moriarty's got several kids that can run the ball, several. So it's not a one-dimensional running back situation like Los Alamos has. Moriarty's got 3 kids that can do damage on the ground. So we're going to see how that game plays out. And then the fourth and the final quarterfinal game is in Taos. Taos is the number 4 seed. Taos won 5 in a row to end the regular season. And they're going to play host to Albuquerque Academy, the number 5 seed. So Academy's coming off a big win, 42-0 over Valencia last week in the first round. The Chargers, they're so talented on the offensive side of the ball. And their defense has 2 shutouts in a row as they go to Taos. I like their chances against Taos. We'll see. Like I said, Taos has a bunch of momentum, and that is not an easy place to play. I usually don't put much stock in road games and teams having a definite home field advantage. I would say Taos has a bit of an advantage playing at home. Usually I wouldn't say any home team or road team has a particular advantage. I would not say that Chaparral has a huge advantage over Moriarty. I would not say that St. Pius has a huge advantage over Grants. I would not say that Bloomfield has a huge advantage over Bloomfield. But I do think Taos has a slight advantage playing at home this week in the 4-5 game. So the Chargers, I was talking about the Los Alamos Gadsden game in 5A. That Academy Taos game is the one that I'm really narrowed in on in the 4A quarterfinals. I'm really interested to see how that plays out. And we have 2 other teams from Albuquerque. I won't go through all the 3A and 2A stuff. Hope Christian is the number 3 seed in Class 3A. They're going to be at home on Friday night to play Hot Springs. I mentioned that a minute ago. And Legacy Academy, which is the number 2 seed in Class 2A. They are seated between Texaco at 1 and Eunice at 3. Legacy Academy, coming off another 9-1 regular season. They are playing in Bernalillo High School on Saturday afternoon against Loving, the number 7 seed. This is a fun matchup in so much that Loving came up here and beat Legacy in the 6-3 game, I think it was, last year. Beat them pretty good. That was Legacy's first ever playoff game as an 11-man program. So we're going to see how Legacy responds. Legacy's most recent game was a very low-scoring shutout win over Santa Rosa to win that district championship. So this Legacy defense is going to have its hands full, and it's been a good defense all year. The offense going to need to put up some points. However, they're not. I don't see them beating Loving 6-0. They're going to have to probably get into the 20s, I think, if they want to have a good chance to win this game. Anyway, so that's kind of a rundown of how the 11-man brackets look. We're going to talk a lot more about the 2A and 3A brackets next week when we get into the semifinals. The 8-man brackets this week are into the semifinals, and we have the 6-man championship game as well this week. So we've got, I think, 23 games total around the state. It should be a fun weekend. As I noted at the start, we have 2 guests this week. Here is the first one, my chat with Centennial head football coach Aaron Ocampo. Okay, as promised, here is our first guest today. He is the head football coach at Centennial High School, former head coach at Manzano High School, Aaron Ocampo. Aaron, good to see you. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a few things here as we look forward to the big quarterfinal game on Saturday afternoon, 1 o'clock at the Field of Dreams against La Cueva. I'll be coming down for both games, actually, this weekend, the Las Cruces game on Friday and then your game on Saturday. So let's talk some La Cueva right off the bat. This is a team you did not play in the regular season. This is a team that's been playing well. They've won 9 in a row. And like, I think like a lot of teams, they're feeling like they're playing their best football as we head into the postseason. They beat El Dorado last week. Just tell me what you've seen from this La Cueva group on film.
I see a very good football team. I think they're good in all 3 phases of the game. Their kicking game's good. They're kind of unique. You watch their kickoff coverage and punt coverage teams. They're playing a mix of starters and backups. They got a lot of depth. You see them on the sidelines. They got like 90 kids on the sidelines, and they play so many kids defensively that, and there's really no drop off between the kids that start the game and the kids that rotate in. And, offensively, they're always really solid. Rico Marcelli does a great job with their offense. And it kind of doesn't matter what guys are there over the years. They always execute really well and have a wide open offense to defend. But defensively, they're always really solid, too. They play a lot of man coverage, and they've got a lot of kids that can play man coverage at La Cueva. And they're really good. They kind of suffocate people defensively, and it's going to be a big challenge for us.
I'd be interested to get your thoughts on La Cueva's quarterback, Monty Melendez, who came in, started the year probably under as much pressure as any 6'8" quarterback, because the previous 2 guys at that position, Cam Dyer and Aiden Armenta, are now both Division I quarterbacks. Aiden's playing at Louisiana Monroe. Cam is playing at Arizona State. This kid had a ton of pressure when he came in, and I think he got off to a bit of a slow start, which is understandable. This happens all the time when you have a new kid to varsity. What are your impressions of this kid and how he handles this offense?
I think he's really good. He reminds me a lot of Armenta, but probably a better athlete than Armenta. He can run better than Armenta. I felt like Armenta was so good at playing with timing at quarterback. Just really good in the pocket, really good with eyes downfield, and really good under pressure. And I feel like the Melendez kid is very, very similar. He's not obviously as big. I'm not sure his size. I don't know how his size is compared to what they put on the roster. But, he doesn't look super big, but he plays with great tempo. His drop is on every time. He throws with great timing. He seems to really understand where he's going with the ball. You could tell he's playing with a lot of confidence of a guy that's trained a lot, that's kind of done a lot of mental reps, and he really understands what he's supposed to do. And that's pretty indicative of how La Cueva quarterbacks have been. But I think he's very, very similar to Armenta, but just a better runner than Armenta was. But he's just not as big as those 2 other kids.
Right.
The size is so much of a factor when it comes to recruiting.
I wanted to talk about your quarterback position as well. Look, Zayden Davis, big Zayden Davis, who is just a tremendous athlete, a kid that was such a dominant QB for you. Maybe not the greatest passer, but a very functional passing quarterback and a tremendous running quarterback. He graduated last year and moved on to New Mexico State. So you had the Labyrinth kid, Ruiz, I believe is his first name, come in. And I'd like you to talk about his maturation process. The only time I've seen you was the opener against Cleveland, so I have not seen you guys until this week. I will have not seen you in person since week 1. But can you talk about his progression in this position over the course of the year?
Yeah, Reese has done so much to really be a good quarterback, and I think that's what he is. He's a real good quarterback. He throws the ball real well. He's really kind of different from Zayden. Zayden was just a big stud athlete that we put at quarterback, and Reese is more of the prototypical quarterback, but he can run well. And there's been times this year where we haven't run him due to injury stuff with him or maybe with somebody else on our team that we didn't want to take any chances. But of late, he's been running a little bit more, and he's a big kid. He's a big tall kid, and he cares so much. He works so hard. His dad's one of our coaches, so he's grown up around our program. He was 4 years old running around on our sideline,
Right.
and he cares so much about our team and about our program, and he works so hard. And he's a kid that deserves every bit of success that he's had and that he's going to continue to have. Obviously, like you said earlier, when you're a first-year starter at quarterback, it's different, and you've got to go through your growing pains. But in a lot of ways, he played pretty well against Cleveland, and he's really Had a good year all throughout. He missed one game, and that was the one game that we ended up not scoring quite a lot in. But he's a good player and has a really good arm and can make all the throws. And I'm excited about seeing him in the playoffs, and I'm excited about seeing him in his future as a football player because he really deserved to do well.
So you and I were talking on the telephone last night, something that I had not been aware of. Dalen Ramirez, your outstanding running back, who was already over 1,000 yards, got hurt several weeks ago when you played, I think Hobbs, you told me, and has not returned. Can you talk to me about how your ground game has changed or how you were forced to change it in the absence of a proven kid that any coach would love to have in a playoff environment? Now you've got to do some adapting, but you've had several weeks to already begin this process.
Yeah, we've been adapting and we've been playing sophomores in that position. And the good thing about playing the young guys is they're going to get better quickly and they're going to get better for the future. But it's tough without Dalen. Dalen is dynamic, and Dalen had I think 1,150 yards in 7 games. He was playing really well, really physical, really tough. And we've been playing some young kids that have been stepping up for us. So, they've done a good job, and they're going to continue to get better as they get more reps. And it's really for everybody else within our offense to step up, whether it's the offensive line, whether it's the receivers blocking downfield, whether it's the passing game, whether it's Reese in the running game. There's a lot of things that we have to do to kind of step up, to step up for missing Dalen. But, it's high school football, it happens. Injuries happen, and it's about the next guy stepping up. And, we've been playing well offensively for the most part, and we've got to step up this week against a good La Cueva team.
So we're visiting with Aaron Ocampo, the head football coach at Centennial, been there a dozen seasons. 7-3, you come in to the playoffs, number 4 seed. La Cueva is seeded number 5. You'll play them on Saturday afternoon at the Field of Dreams. So look, your 3 losses, the opener to Cleveland, in which you scored, I think, 42 points, I think, if my memory serves, that day. And then you had then you had the loss to Hobbs, and you lost your regular season finale only by 10 points to Cruces. And honestly, only Cleveland had played Las Cruces closer than you have this year. Do you feel like your team's form is close to, if not right at, where you would like it as you get started with your playoff opener?
Yeah, I'm real proud of this team. We knew going into this year that we had our work cut out for us because we had to replace a lot of good football players. We have 4 kids that are playing in college programs that graduated last year that were really good players, and we graduated a bunch of other players that didn't necessarily go on to college, but we had a senior dominant team last year, and we were really good with those guys, and we knew we had some holes to fill, and our kids have just really stepped up in a way that I'm really impressed with, just the way they've competed. Our losses have been to the 1, the 2, and the 3 seed, so, it's not like we've played other really tough teams that we ended up getting wins against. So I'm proud of our group, and I feel like we're playing our best football this time of year. I was really proud of how we played the other night against Cruces. We just kind of had a couple turnovers that made the game swing the other way. But, this time of year, it's about playing with the fundamentals and doing a really good job taking care of each individual play. And our kids are excited. We've been practicing well. We've been pushing them. And hopefully we come out Saturday and play really well against a really, really good La Cueva team.
So your district has 3 of the top 4 seeds this year. Las Cruces undefeated at number 1. Hobbs having a great season. They're 8-2 at number 3. You're number 4. Is this the best? Is this the best the district has been since Centennial opened? You came in when Centennial opened. So this District 3-6A, is this the best it has been since you became the head coach at Centennial?
Definitely. Obviously we've been in a couple different districts since I've been here, but definitely. I feel like every one of the teams in our district is really, really competitive. Alamogordo had a great year this year. They would have probably made the playoffs had they beaten Clovis, but Clovis early in the season was getting beat by teams really bad. And by the end of the year, they were playing really good football. They got a quarterback that not a lot of people know about. I think his name is Jimenez, and he's a difference maker. He's a junior. We've got 4 junior quarterbacks in our district. They're all really good. Carlsbad kind of shocked a lot of people in the state by going up to beat Rio Rancho, but it wasn't very shocking to me because we've been playing Carlsbad and they've been getting a lot better, and their defense is really tough. It's been
And
a
not to
fun
interrupt you, but they also caught Rio Rancho with its own quarterback issue, with their starter hurt the previous week against Cleveland, and they were reduced to using an 8th grader for a good chunk of the game. So not only is everything you just said very accurate about how well Carlsbad is playing, they also happen to catch Rio Rancho, I think, at exactly the right time when you have a new kid at quarterback who has no experience whatsoever.
Definitely. And it seems like around the state, there's been, a lot of major injuries that have kind of made teams different from one week to another. I think Volcano Vista has lost their quarterback, Rio Rancho. It was another team that was
Los
missing
Lunas?
somebody. Yeah, Los Lunas,
Right.
had their guy missing for a while. So it's been really kind of a unique year where teams are really different from one week to another.
You've had a dozen years. Oh, school bell. Okay.
We've got an announcement going here, but I think it'll be done here in just a second. Yeah, is this a first for the podcast?
This is a
lockdown
definite first for the podcast. I lost my train of thought for a second. What I was going to say is you've had a dozen years now in Las Cruces Public Schools. You had about a dozen years at Manzano. Tell me, as a coach, primary difference with the way these two districts approach the sport of football. Is there one?
I wouldn't necessarily say there's a difference in how they approach football, and when I came from Manzano, it was 12, it was 2011 was my last experience. So I can't speak for how things are going now. And from what I've heard from people in APS, that it's a lot different now than it was then. So I don't know. I think it would be kind of unfair to really make a judgment on that. But I do know that down here, it seems like, just the kids in the community, especially when I first started here, were very much gung ho about football. It's a football town here. And in Albuquerque, there's so many things going on, so many other sports, so many activities, whereas football's important, but maybe it was a little bit more important here. And coming in here, whenever I came down here, I mean, Cruces and Mayfield were the teams at the highest division that were like Cleveland and La Cueva at the time. They were the ones that were winning the state championships. And it's changed a little bit here with our school opening and kind of us becoming a really good team in the state. And really, since those first couple of years, we haven't had a state championship here, but we're dealing with schools that are much smaller enrollment than they used to be. When Cruces and Mayfield were good, they were with about 2,400 kids. And now us and Cruces are around 1,700 kids. So we're very small 6A schools that compete quite well with, the rest of the state that has a lot higher population of their schools.
Yeah. To clarify what you just said, Las Cruces, and I was there for the last game. That was 2013, the fantastic state final between Mayfield and Cruces at Aggie Memorial Stadium. And we had 25,000 plus there. And Cruces, I believe, won by a single point on a blocked PAT near the end of the game. And that was the last big school state championship game that we've had in Cruces. Not the last time a Las Cruces school has been in the final. We had, we had Mayfield made it one year, I think in 2014, and they lost by a safety to Rio Rancho up here. And then I believe there was one other time, Cruces might have been up here one other time, but it's been a while. And I noted in a column before the year, a little bit tongue in cheek, I think it would be healthy for everybody, maybe the northern schools wouldn't like this. It would be healthy for everybody if we had a Southern champion emerge again in Class 6A, whether it's your team, whether it's Hobbs, whether it's Las Cruces. I think it would add some more health to the North-South dynamic, of course. And you know this as well as anyone. For years, the South was dominating and kicking the crap out of all the Albuquerque schools. The dynamic shifted at some point after Cleveland opened. And for the last half dozen years, it's been Cleveland and La Cueva largely, with a little bit of Rio Rancho in there. I think it would be nice to see a Southern team win it all, whoever it is, just to get that dynamic back in play. I think it's healthier for 6A football when both regions of the state are producing state champions. I think that enhances all the rivalries. A lot of these schools play each other in the non-district, like you played Cleveland and Volcano, I think, and Rio Rancho.
No, we
Cruces.
played Cleveland, Rio Rancho, and Artesia. So
I'm sorry,
Artesia's
Cleveland, Rio
the
Rancho, and
top
Artesia.
5A.
Cruces, I think, played Volcano. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Cruces played Volcano and Rio Rancho and Cleveland. So I don't know if you feel the same way, but I do. I feel like it would be a good thing if a Southern team won state, whoever it is, just to get some of the balance back. And I'm not trying to root against La Cueva or Cleveland or Volcano or Rio Rancho. I just think it would restore some balance to 6A football.
Yeah, I think it would be great if we won the state championship. We're the Southern team that I'd like to see win it. It's kind of one thing I think going on in high school football throughout the nation. I think you see in most states there's 2 or 3 teams that tend to win the state championship, and it's really kind of become an all-star team, in whatever big town it is, all the kids kind of going to 1 or 2 schools. And, unfortunately for us in Cruces, we don't have a huge population where, if Las Cruces is really good or we're really good one year, it's not like we're drawing from a population of 250,000. We've got 100,000 in this town, but it doesn't mean it can't be done. And I think you see this year, Cruces looks like they're a team that could do it. I thought last year we had a great chance. We didn't play very well in the semifinals, but it does make it a lot of fun whenever there's some parity. And I think us and Cruces have done a good job competing with those teams. It's about us doing it this time of year. And we've got our opportunity to start here on Saturday with La Cueva.
I say this all the time, and I grew up in Rio Rancho back when there was no Rio Rancho High School. I went to Cibola. The city of Rio Rancho desperately needs to build a 3rd high school. I don't know if the football coaches, Coach Garza at Cleveland, Coach Pino at Rio Rancho, there's no way in hell either one of them wants a 3rd high school built in Rio Rancho. They have a great monopoly on football right now. But for a competitive balance, in the same way that, Oregon Mountain opened and took some kids away from Mayfield and Cruces, and then Centennial opened and changed the dynamic. I don't know if the schools in Cruces feel this way, but Rio Rancho is roughly the same size as Las Cruces with 2 high schools instead of 4. And I've been saying for years, Rio Rancho's got to find a way to build a 3rd high school. Otherwise, we're going to have Cleveland in the state finals every year for a decade, the way things are going.
Yeah, definitely. I think Rio Rancho's really kind of watched what happened in Las Cruces when they opened Centennial. When they opened Centennial, it's almost like, well, within 2 years, the teams in Las Cruces weren't nearly as competitive against the teams in Rio Rancho or La Cueva or whoever, because if our school wasn't open, there'd be a lot of really good football players that would be playing at either Cruces or Mayfield, right, or maybe at Oregon. And, right now we're sitting to where Mayfield hasn't had a JV in, I think, 4 or 5 years. And Oregon hasn't had a JV in 3 or 4 years. So, us and Cruces are playing JV, but it's just the numbers aren't just as high because we've kind of watered it down. And I think the people in Rio Rancho are seeing that, and they're doing their best to not open a new school. Now, there's 2 ways to look at it. Yeah. If they don't open a new school, they have a lot more success for their teams. However, now us with 4 high schools in Las Cruces, now there's 4 different sets of starters. There's 4 different sets of kids that get an opportunity to play. Does it mean that we're going to have as much talent on our teams? No, we're not going to have as much talent, but what's good for kids? So, I don't know what the best answer is in the world of education, which we're in. But we all want to be successful. We all want to win, and we all want to do the best we can with the kids we got. And I think that's what we're trying to do down here.
Yeah. You were talking about Mayfield a second ago. Look, Mayfield had to drop down to Class 5A, which for me was hard to watch. I've been doing this job a long time. As a matter of fact, you were at Manzano. You played Mayfield in a state championship game going back with 2010, I think. That incredibly high scoring game we had at Wilson Stadium. It was tough for me just as a reporter. I don't have a dog in the fight. It was tough as a reporter just to watch Mayfield have to drop down to 5A because of numbers, as you were just referencing a second ago. None of the 4 schools are like overly large. That is tough to watch. And even Manzano, your former school, they're a 4A school now. That is really hard to watch. I mean, they are only 8 years removed from having won a state title when they beat La Cueva, and they dropped down to 5A, and now they're in 4A. That is tough for me to watch. And maybe that's just the trend, and that's part of the way things are. But it's tough for me to watch some of these schools with rich history, lose some students and have to drop down into another classification. And Mayfield's struggling as it is, even as a 5A school. So I'm curious, Manzano in particular, you were there and you enjoyed a lot of success. Has it been difficult for you to watch Manzano drop down and be a 4A program now, as robust as it used to be?
I guess it's unique. I guess it's kind of what happens in cities. People move to different parts. It seems like everyone's moving to the west side. And I mean, I haven't thought overly much about it, just because I think I'm so cued into what we're doing and what we have to do, so I don't do a good enough job of looking and paying attention to everybody else. I'm kind of laser focused. And right now I could tell you a lot about La Cueva. So I could tell you a lot about them right now.
Okay. Well, as we noted, Centennial, number 4 seed, 7-3. They're going to play La Cueva, who is 9-2 now after beating El Dorado last week. That game is 1:00 Saturday at the Field of Dreams. Aaron, thanks so much for taking some time today. Please let your principal know that we did not appreciate his interruptions. We know it's not his fault. I will look forward to seeing you down at the Field of Dreams on Saturday. I thank you for your time. Take care, stay healthy, and we'll see you on Saturday.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
You bet. That is Aaron Ocampo, the head football coach at Centennial High School. Okay, that was Centennial head football coach Aaron Ocampo. I thank Aaron for taking some time. And you probably heard a little bit of audio during the interview over the loudspeakers there at Centennial. That's the first time we've had a bit of a interruption in terms of a school announcement coming from one of the administrators. So I apologize for that. We didn't know that was going to happen. Here is the other interview that I did earlier today with Elijah Melancon, the senior quarterback from Eunice High School. Boy, he has been sensational since he started playing the position when he was a freshman. So he was nice enough to join us from Eunice today. Here's my chat with Elijah. Okay, now we welcome in our second guest this week. He is Elijah Melancon. He is the senior quarterback at Eunice High School. Eunice is seeded number 3 in the Class 2A playoffs. Eunice is playing Santa Rosa this week in a really, really tough quarterfinal. Eunice finished second in their district to Texaco. Certainly one of the few teams that are in the mix to win it all. Elijah, good to see you. Thanks for joining me.
Yes, sir.
So I tell you what, let's do this first. Let's talk about Santa Rosa. Santa Rosa was ranked number 1 most of the season. Then they lost to Raton in a 1-point game, and then they lost 6-0 to Legacy Academy on the last week of the regular season. So their seed dropped down to 6. I was talking to your coach last night about this very thing, and he said this might be the greatest number 6 seed in the history of the Class 2A playoffs. What is your take on this team? This is a very good team, and even though you guys have the higher seed, I think we all agree Santa Rosa is not your ordinary number 6 seed.
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, no, they're absolutely really good for being a 6 seed. At this point, ranks don't really matter. You're playing a team and you're trying to get to the next week.
So go ahead.
They're a really good team. They have some very good athletes on their team, and it'll be a really good game.
Yeah, and of course, Santa Rosa is motivated. They made it all the way to the state final last year and got really beat up by Texaco. And this team has a good ground game. So look, you individually and Eunice as an offense, you guys like to throw the ball. And if you are any team playing Eunice, one of the things that you need to do well, and I saw you guys play St. Mike's in the middle of the season, and St. Mike's did this pretty well. You need to run the ball well on your defense and limit your touches if you have an offense that is explosive like yours. And Santa Rosa has a good running game. They've got a couple of good running backs who can both go over 100 yards at any time. What is your impression of the way they run the ball and how that matches up with your defense?
Oh, they run the ball very hard. They're determined on what they're trying to do, and I mean, they've been doing it forever. They've been running that offense forever, and they know the ins and outs of it. So, and I feel like our defense can step up and really do their job the way they're supposed to do it. And yes, sir.
Right. So you guys come in certainly with one of those teams, and the reason you're a 3 seed and not the 1 seed is frankly because Texaco beat you guys, I think, 42-34 in the second or third last game of the regular season, which is the only reason Texaco got seeded, I think, higher than you guys. As we come out of your bye week, How is this team feeling about itself? I mean, right now everybody has to win 3 games, whether it's Texaco or Legacy Academy, which is seeded number 2, yourselves, Santa Rosa. Those are the 4 teams I look at specifically that would seem to me to have the best chance. How are you guys feeling about your chances over these next 3 weeks?
We feel really good after coming off the bye week, practicing. We feel really good about our shot, but we just got to take it 1 week at a time, one
Right.
game at a time, and that's it.
So you have been playing quarterback on the varsity level for Eunice since you were a freshman. You've been through a lot of playoff games. Do they ever get old in terms of just the anticipation of it, the excitement of being on the field on a Friday night or a Saturday afternoon for a playoff game?
No, sir, they don't get old. Going from Friday nights to Saturdays in the evening, it's something special.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little about your individual achievements. This season, I think it was the JOW game to finish the regular season. You went over 10,000 career passing yards with Eunice. Only 3 other quarterbacks in the state's history have done this. You also have moved into second place all time on the career touchdown passes list. And I'm just wondering, I don't know, when you were a scrawny freshman, could you have imagined achieving that much statistically in these 4 years at Eunice?
No, sir, I would have never thought this is where I would be at in my career in high school. From starting as a freshman to now, I didn't think I'd be putting up these numbers, but I obviously couldn't have done it without the team that I played with for all 4 years. I've had a bunch of playmakers on the offensive side that have helped. O-line has been great, and it's just I really haven't done much. They've done most of the work for me.
I want to ask you specifically about the 10,000 yards thing. I mean, look, that is just a nice, round, impressive number. And when you finally got over that threshold against JAL a couple of weeks ago I think that was your final regular season game, how meaningful it was to you? And did the school do anything during the game to honor you? I meant to ask that as well.
I know whenever I hit the 10,000 yards, they went over the speakers and they announced it while the game was still going on. And then after the game, I had a banner that said 10,000 career passing yards. And then me and my team had cake to the side, and I took pictures with a whole bunch of people.
Were you aware during the course of the year of how close you were to 10,000 yards?
It was always in the back of my mind. Like, it was just a little thought about it because of the people bringing it up. But I never really cared about it. And even getting it that night, really didn't care about it.
Yeah, I think I bring it up because, look, I mean, if you think of all the years that we've been playing high school football in New Mexico, only 3 dudes that play your position have ever thrown for more yards. And frankly, I think you're already past the guy that was number 3 on the list. I think actually you're ranked number 3 now, and maybe with a chance to get to number 2 before the end of the season. And I think that's why I bring it up, because historically, after you graduate and you move on to college and you just become an adult and maybe have a family and you reflect on these years at Eunice, you'll think, man, all the guys that have played quarterback in the state for all these decades, and I am one of only 4 guys that got to that number.
It is going to be something to look back onto. I mean, right now, of course, I don't really think of it as a me thing. It's more of a team thing. But obviously, like, later on in my life, I will think of it as like, wow, I have done something special.
Were you just a natural quarterback as a kid? I mean, long before you got to high school, were you just a natural quarterback at the younger levels?
Yes, sir. I played quarterback from flag football when I was about 4 or 5, and I've stuck with it ever since.
What do kids in Eunice do for youth football? Like, here in Albuquerque, we have a whole bunch of YAPL programs. I'd be curious. I don't know much about some of the smaller towns. If you play football in Eunice, you and the kids you grew up with, your fellow seniors, what did you guys do during your younger years during the football season? I mean, what was available to kids in Eunice?
They just now started doing a flag football team for like the second through third, first and second graders. But whenever I was playing, they had 3rd and 4th grade together and 5th and 6th grade together. And you'd play tackle football against teams that are closer to us, like Hobbs teams, Seminole teams, Denver City teams.
So not flag football, but tackle football.
Yes, sir, tackle football.
Okay, so it wasn't necessarily a league. It's just you just picked up games wherever you could against local, against teams that are close to you.
It was called the Gridiron League,
Okay.
and one year my 5th grade year, we made it to the Super Bowl. It was the final game, and we won it.
Tell me how you think you've evolved. I mean, from where you were as a freshman to now as a senior. And I feel bad because the one game I saw you against St. Mike's was not necessarily a fair representation of your talent because St. Mike's is so incredibly good defensively. They've been doing this to everybody, not just Eunice, but everybody. Tell me about your evolution at the quarterback position. What do you do better now as a senior? Things that you do now that as a freshman you're like, I had no idea about.
I've grown a lot, and one of the main things is progressing through my reads and being a little more calm in the pocket. When I was a freshman, I would see people come near me, and I would get out of there as soon as possible, try and make a run for it, or I would throw a terrible ball. It would probably be an interception. But now I've definitely I've stayed more calm in the pocket, and I've been gone through my reads and hit my guys when I needed to.
Why does this offense work so well? Have you guys tailored the offense around yourself and given yourself a good bit of receiving talent around you and given you a good running game as well?
Well, we've all played together for our whole lives. Everybody that's in my senior group, I've played with them before. So we grew up playing together. And when we got to middle school, we started doing the high school plays. And then when we got into high school, we were already doing those plays. We were just perfecting them at that point.
As a kid, did you attend Eunice High School football games?
Oh, yes, sir.
All you and all your little buddies, would you guys just go hang out somewhere and just watch from somewhere together and talk about, someday this will be us?
Yes, sir. And I don't think any of us ever thought it would be, but now it is.
How would you describe the journey? Like I said, I mean, you have at least one game, maybe 3 games left in your high school career. How would you describe this whole journey of playing football, especially in a small town? I've been to Eunice once or twice, but not for many, many years. I love small town New Mexico football. The communities are very tight knit. Whether we're talking about Eunice or Texaco or JAL, some of the smaller communities, teams that you guys play regularly. I love the small town feel, and I love the sense of community and belonging that exists with these towns. And I'm wondering if you could describe that part of it and just where everybody knows everybody.
Yeah, there's only a few hundred kids in our school, so you know every person who's in your class. There's maybe 10, 12 kids in your class. You grow up on the blocks playing with kids in your grade, maybe not even from your grade, but the community is definitely special. They live and breathe for Eunice Cardinal football, for sure.
Yeah. How old do you think you were when you first watched a Eunice High School game, like on a Friday night? You must have been just a little itty bitty guy, I imagine.
Yes, sir. I was probably in elementary school still.
um, I was wondering if, given your numbers this year, the easy question would be, do you have aspirations to play college football? Your numbers would suggest that you could. You tell me whether you feel like that's a possibility for you. And I ask only because you probably know this as well as I do. Look, if you come from a very small town, it's much harder to play at the next level. It just is. Whether that's fair or not, I don't know, but I just know that it is. If you play in a small town or city, no matter what your numbers are, it's difficult to get to the next level. What are your plans?
I would absolutely love to play football at the collegiate level. I don't care really where it's for, where at. I just want to be able to showcase my talent and be able to proceed in life with football.
Do you have any options at this point?
No, sir.
Okay. So, the next signing day, the Division I guys will be all signing in December. The regular football signing period will occur in February. And I'm wondering, is it kind of up to you now, maybe you and your coaching staff there at Eunice and your family, to get the word out, make sure that maybe some schools in the region see film on you and say, hey, look, don't just turn it off because I'm a kid from a smaller school. I can play. Is that what will happen, do you think?
Yes, sir. We've definitely we've put my film out there. I've sent it to many coaches, and then at this point, it's just a waiting game. I've done what I can to send it to them, and I'm persistent on showing them what I can do. But at the end of the day, I just got to wait for it and pray.
What do you hope to study in college? Have you thought about that?
Kinesiology.
I'm sorry?
Kinesiology.
Tell me about that. Why that?
Last year in our last game against Texaco, I'd hurt my knee, and I had to go through physical therapy for a while. And coming back off of it, and my physical therapist was able to help me, and he like really brought me back into it. And I really want to do that for kids whenever I'm older.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. Well, listen, Elijah, I'm going to go ahead and cut you loose. I thank you so much for joining me. I've been wanting to have you on all season. I told your coach that I think I wanted to wait until you got past the 10,000-yard plateau to get you on with me. So I'm glad we could finally arrange it. Stay healthy for the rest of the playoffs. Good luck this week against Santa Rosa. That should be a tremendous game. That by far to me is the best of all the Class 2A quarterfinal games that are going on this week. So yeah, Eunice playing Santa Rosa. Eunice, the number 3 seed in Class 2A. Santa Rosa, the 6 seed. Meeting in the quarterfinals. Elijah, stay healthy. Thanks. Good talking to you. And we'll talk to you down the road.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Elijah Melancon from Eunice High School. Fantastic quarterback. So once again, we thank both of our guests today for taking some time. And we're going to have more guests on next week as we get into the semifinals. I've got a few other guests I want to get on the podcast either next week or even into championship week. So we're not done with the guests by a long shot. Before we wrap up today, let's talk about a couple of other sports whose seasons are now over. Soccer season finished last weekend at UNM. The Class 5A state champions, El Dorado's girls, who beat Rio Rancho 2-0 in the championship game. La Cueva's boys, who beat Rio Rancho 1-0. That was a fantastic game at UNM. Those are the 2 5A state champions. In Class 4A, Hope's girls won their 5th straight state title. They have just been amazing, and frequently they've been the best team in the whole state, regardless of classification. Hope defeated Academy 2-1, a terrific final there in 4A. The 4A boys, St. Pius, finished off a great season. They only lost 1 match all year. They beat their rival Albuquerque Academy 2-0. Of course, Academy had beaten St. Pius the previous year. In Class 1A through 3A, we had St. Michael's girls beat Bosque School 1-0, and we had Santa Fe Prep in what might have been the most exciting of all the championship games, beat Sandia Prep 3-2. That game went to penalty kicks. What a fantastic game. St. Pius won their 19th title, which is second only to Sandia Prep in the whole state. Sandia Prep was going for its 22nd state title in the game against Santa Fe Prep. Sandia Prep led that game 2-0. Santa Fe Prep came back in the second half, 2 goals from an 8th grader named Aiden Nixon, fantastic young player. To tie the game, we went to overtime. We eventually went to PKs. We got to the 5th round of penalty kicks. Sandia Prep had the ball on its foot, and if it put away its penalty in the 5th round, Sandia Prep would have won state. It hit iron, and then we went to a 6th round where Santa Fe Prep won the shootout. That was just a gut-wrenching loss for Sandia Prep and Coach Tommy Smith, and I could see it on his face after the game. That was a very difficult loss, probably one of the toughest he suffered in his many years at Sandia Prep. But Santa Fe Prep, which was second last year, won state. St. Pius boys, who were second last year, won state. La Cueva's boys, who were second last year, won state. That was an interesting side note there. State cross country was also held last weekend out at Albuquerque Academy. I'm just going to keep this to the 4A and 5A stuff. Gianna Raymer from El Dorado, the sophomore, she won her 3rd consecutive individual state title. So congratulations to her. Lucas Espinosa from Cleveland. He was the boys' 5A champion, and Cleveland's boys and El Dorado's girls were the team champions in Class 5A. In Class 4A, we had Carmen Dorsey Spitz from Moriarty, a junior, who posted the fastest time of any girl at state, including Gianna. And that's the second time this has happened on that course over the last month. So Carmen from Moriarty wins the 4A race. And Nicholas Ponte, who was just super consistent and excellent all year for the Academy boys, he won the 4A boys race. We had Academy's boys and Los Alamos' girls, no big surprise, take home blue trophies. So volleyball is up next, starting on Thursday out in Rio Rancho and at Bernalillo. The Rio Rancho Event Center will host Class 3A, Class 4A, and 5A stuff all the way through. Classes 1A and 2A will be scattered among Rio Rancho High, Cleveland High, Bernalillo High. And then the last day of the tournament is Saturday. The Rio Rancho Event Center is hosting everybody. So the final couple of rounds in all 5 classes will be on Saturday at the Rio Rancho Event Center. Championship games at 4 o'clock for the 3 smallest classes, and then Class 4A and Class 5A scheduled for 6 o'clock on Saturday night. So we'll have somebody there covering that for the Journal. I will be out of town this weekend, but we'll have a lot more football to talk about next week, more guests. We'll recap state volleyball. It was a busy podcast this week. I appreciate you joining. Thanks for listening. Go out and enjoy some football this weekend, and I will talk to you again next week. Take care.